thank you very much for the invitation. My name is Patrícia Reis. I'm an artist actually from Portugal. I'm based in Vienna since 7 years. I'm also an assistant professor at the University of Applied Arts in Vienna in the Department of Digital Arts. Actually, it was, they say, the first department or the first degree on digital arts in the whole Europe, started by Peter Weibel in the 80s. And I'm actually in Aveiro because I'm one of the artists at one amazing event we're having at the moment. So I guess I'm also somehow representing a bit the CRIATECH. So it's digital creativity and technology, and it's a festival with exhibitions around Europe, around the whole city, Europe maybe later, one day. And I have this installation with the title Underneath the Skin, Another Skin, which is an interactive haptic installation. And I will talk a little bit about it later, but when I was invited to be part of this panel, I thought it would be very interesting to sort of take this opportunity to also demystify a little bit what is my practice, how did I ended up to use technology, and how also I've managed as a solo artist to include it in my production. So in my artist practice, I have been very interested in pursuing new modes of sensorial engagement with the audience, and in particular in the field of human body perception and visuality. So what I call it, I try to pursue what is called like a haptic visuality. So how can technology be an asset and help us to expand our own perception? And by us, I mean humans, but also I address to the viewers and participants. So I try to also to use technology. I do have access in sort of like to stimulate other body perceptions at the same time to make us more close to our bodies as humans. So to be aware of our bodies. So I believe that today technology we engage in an everyday basis, and somehow we forget what we are doing. So I'll definitely immersed through the interface. We forget about our body, about our sense of touch, and everything is pretty much connected to visuality. So for instance, in this artwork, I just presented in an art fair in Vienna this last 2 weeks, and it's a share composed by 10 vibration motors. So it has an interface that one has to blow through it, and by blowing this sort of like air coming out of the lungs, it's translated into massage patterns. So they are very automatic, and they are felt in the body. So it's very interesting because all the audience somehow makes an effort to exhale very long and somehow to inhale very fast, because whenever they inhale, the massage stops. So they have to keep on sort of like using their body in that sense. So I'm also very interested in this idea of deconstructing and hacking as a methodology to my artist practice. And I'd like to think about the media and human-machine interaction more into this idea, confronting concepts such as automatism, and also this idea about black box, which are very inherent to the apparatus, with the concepts that are more inherent to humans, such as visual pleasure and voyeur, exhibitionist, private and public. So I understand hacking within this artist research has a political act of questioning and subverting the system, which might be, of course, materialized in many different ways. One of them is reversing engineer. So it's basically opening up apparatus and giving them, for instance, another function. This would be an example. So in this sense, hacking might be also questioning what is behind this commercial apparatus and defying their potential with the awareness of the impact of technology in the current neoliberal market. So if we build upon the belief that art practice can be a critical impetus for social change, hacking practice and methods might be a potential tool for activating the participant, so activating the spectator or as many theoreticians say nowadays, emancipating the spectator and leading them to the process of questioning technology. So in my, I actually studied painting, and I studied painting for 5 years. I had no idea about technology, and I was pretty much inspired by two big movements. One of them is, of course, the hacking movement in the way I understand it, and also the DIY movement. So I thought it would be interesting to share just some of these aspects from my practice, because this was the way I sort of like learned how to use technology. So I started to go frequently to hackerspaces such as the Meta Lab. And Meta Lab is one of the biggest hackerspaces in whole Europe. It has now over 300 members. Each member pays a fee of, at the moment, €30 per month, and they are totally independent, so they can afford the rent and they can pay and buy new equipment. And this equipment is shared by everyone that is a member. So it's a very interesting space to learn and to change ideas, and especially to have access to machines that sometimes we solo artists cannot afford. So I'd just like to show this slide because there's always this misperception about what a hacker is, that somehow it's something bad or someone that sort of gives us virus in the computers. So as an artist, and I'm not stating alone, there's many artists in this field of media art that identify themselves as white hats. So one of the aspects that I found that was not so interesting, or that was somehow for me a difficulty as an artist in these hackerspaces, was that the majority of the participants were definitely male. So in hackerspaces such as Meta Lab, there's only 10% of the participants are female. So I was lucky enough in 2012 to find this amazing space, which I'm now part since then, which is called Miss Balthazar Laboratory, which is a feminist hackerspace based in Austria. So in this hackerspace, it's different from others in the sense that we sort of focus in workshops which are only for women, and by women I mean women with a star, so that includes all non-binary people, queer, transgender, and so on. So we organize workshops for free, which are offered by women to women in that sense, and in the intersection of art, science, technology, and feminism. We are currently financed by the state in Austria, and we run a very successful exhibition program. So we empower also other women, such as I, to show their work in the form of a solo show. And this is a little bit one of our manifestos. So we started to be this weekly event just for women who love to make things rather than consume them, come from different backgrounds, ages, mindsets, and want to change equipment, build circuits, and play with do-it-yourself electronics to create interactive art. So our aim is to empower those minority groups in terms of what, in the field of technology and art, through learning, peer learning, sharing knowledge, and generating what we call a culture of fearless towards making art and making art with technology. So this is some pictures what we have now in our lab. Of course, all our exhibitions are open to all the public, and this is the environment we try to create, as we say, like a safer environment in our workshop sessions, and we mainly play with all these very popular open source microcontrollers such as the Arduino and the LilyPad. And this is just an example of other workshops we do whenever we are invited to go. This one, for instance, in Brussels, we have been already like in 30 different countries around the world. So has artists and feminists interested in learning open source technology. We also ask this question, where are all the women? And not only the women that are using technology, but actually that are making technology, that are behind all these developers and sort of industry. I mean, there's of course many different theories. We don't have time to expand. We believe that invisible censorship is one of them. So the fact that it's not that, of course, that those minority groups are banned from those spaces, that doesn't exist. But indeed, they don't feel that it's natural to become part of it. So it's definitely a social problem. I really like this illustration from my colleague, Stephanie Wuschitz, which is like we have this tree with some computers. Technology has a metaphor for technology. And it's a little bit her idea about like technology, such as computers, they do not grow on trees. They are definitely made by people with a specific intention, and we know that they have the power to change society. So we believe, of course, that women and trans and non-binary people, so women with a star, should equally be part of this process towards a more diverse and plural society. So, of course, I was very lucky to be part of this group, and we shared different skills, and we encourage each other to sort of open all these devices and become makers, but become makers with the awareness of what technology is. So constantly this process of questioning. So this is the installation I have at the moment at Teatro Averense, and it will be on display until the 13th. So today it's open until midnight, and also tomorrow and Saturday. And this installation is a long-term project which I also work together with neuroscientists. I also am not sure if I work with high-tech or low-tech. I should figure that out later. I mean, indeed, I didn't develop an interface that is definitely needs to be produced in a massive way by industry. And these are the three different objects. So they have these organic shapes. They are made of textile material, and they are filled with styrofoam. So they invite the audience to embody them in a sort of like sensorial way. So they have three different stimuli: audiovisual and tactile. Here it's the different audiovisual interfaces. I'm not very good with titles, so I call them object A, B, and C to distinguish them. I have some D, E, and F in mind that I'm working at the moment, so the idea is to expand them to different positions and ways of interaction. So they all share the same kind of audiovisual interface. So the visual, it's basically flickering light, so we have to approach with our eyes shut. And the audio, they are special audio beats which are synchronized with the flickering light. So this is an example of one of the objects where I have to approach with the eyes shut. And also we have access to a tactile sensor, and by sort of like applying pressure, I can change the speed of the frequencies, and with that having different experiences. So this is just an example what I try to sort of explain or represent my immersive experience, or what I see with my eyes shut. So there's an illusion happening, and although my eyelids are closed, I can still perceive an image, which is, I call it a brain image in motion. So it's very often characterized as geometric shapes in motion, like in depth. So in this, let's say, if I was asked to think about how art or technology influences art, I would conclude that definitely by activating the participation with the machine, that our sort of like experiences is changed and affected, and especially it's different for each user. So the machine is definitely a potential amplifier of the experience of the participant. By enveloping the work, the participant plays a very important role in the art process. So the artwork becomes the experience. Thank you.